How you doing? It's the Butcher here, and today I have a video. I'm going to be doing a report card of the Diablo 4 Season 4 PTR. That's a mouthful. But I've had, this is Monday now, so almost a full week with it. I've probably put in 50 something hours into it, maybe even more, honestly. I know it's a lot, but basically done everything there is to do. I've gotten all the way down to level 200 pit. Have done several of the Uber bosses, whatever you want to call them. I've played around with the tempering and masterworking in every single different class. I spent more time with some than others, but I pretty much have done it all. So I wanted to give kind of my final report card of the Season 4 PTR. And these are the categories that I have chose here. So I have itemization, Hell Tides, the pit, the bosses or the boss ladder, basically, tempering, masterworking, class changes, quality of life / UI, and then an overall rating. So let's jump right into it. And we're going to start off with itemization. So this is not going to be including, like, obviously the tempering and masterworking and stuff. So this is just purely the items you basically pick up off the ground. So in totality, I think the itemization changes are very good. When I pick up stuff, there's a much better chance of me being intrigued by it. I definitely don't have to go through as much stuff. The stuff I do go through, I go through much faster because there's less affixes, there's easier ways to tell. I think the greater affixes are a fantastic change and a fantastic new type of item, I guess, to add to the game. So overall, with just the base level itemization, I'm very happy with it. The one thing I will say is they've made yellows like basically totally useless besides mats. So I don't know if there's a way they could... I guess we don't want them to be useful because then you gotta look through more stuff, but at the same time it feels like, why the hell are these yellows even dropping for me? Maybe once you get to a certain point they just drop as the veiled crystals because that's the mat you get for them. So that's a little bit strange, and that's what's going to keep it away, honestly, from being just a 10 from a base itemization standpoint. I'm going to give this actually a 9 out of 10. Maybe I should change the color for the rating. We'll do white, and I am in Notepad, unlike my last video, where I'm in Paint, instead of Notepad, so I don't flashbang everyone because I can't figure out how to get Notepad into dark mode. So next we have Hell Tides. So this one's a bit interesting. Hell Tides are definitely significantly better. The density is better. There's more things to do. It actually feels like an alive activity more than just this mindless thing you're running through like it previously did. You have the new, I forget what the meter's called, but you basically fill up the meter and there's an explosion of enemies. You have the kind of the same thing as the Vamptide with like the ritual activity. So it's definitely a lot better. Would I say Hell Tides are like the most fun thing ever? No, not at all. And I've mentioned this in several videos now. Maybe I just have some fatigue for them from doing so many and being so mindless. I definitely did enjoy my time I spent with them more. However, I just don't think forcing people to do this Hell Tide system is good. I mean, maybe for some people, I think the changes are good. So this one's kind of tough, because I think they definitely improved on it a ton. I don't know. It might just be fatigue for me. I think that's part of it. So I'm actually going to give this... why is that not working? I was going to give it a 7.5. And I don't know why this is not in white. But either way, we'll just keep going. It's not a big deal. The pit. So this is kind of our new endgame system. Has replaced basically Nightmare Dungeons. Is essentially... Greater Rifts from Diablo 3, basically the same thing. However, I just think this is, again, a significant upgrade over Nightmare Dungeons. You don't have any of the stupid objectives to worry about. You don't have to pick up any items. You basically just go in, kill monsters as fast as possible, get your rewards at the end after beating a boss, and get out. So I think I think it's pretty enjoyable. My one concern here is the staying power of the pit. It is definitely something I could see getting very repetitive. With that being said, the way you're able to build up your character to push higher levels of the pit is very fun, and then you get the materials for masterworking from in there, and you also get the materials to summon the basically the uber bosses, which we'll get to next. So overall, I enjoy the pit. Like I said, my one concern is the staying power of it. If And I don't think that's totally the pit's fault too. I think if we just had other systems as well too, other endgame systems, it wouldn't be as much of an issue. But right now, this is basically it. So, it is what it is. So I'm gonna give the pit, for that reason, an 8.5. I think the pit is very solid, and I've definitely enjoyed my time with it. I look forward to, kind of grinding it out once Season 4 actually releases. So now we have the bosses. So if you're unaware, they added basically level 200 bosses for every boss in the game, essentially. And so who have I done? I've done Grigor, I've done Duriel, and I've done, what's the new one? Andariel, sorry. So those are the level 200 bosses I've done. They are decently challenging. If you use one of the OP builds, though, they're pretty easy. They're pretty good. You get increased chances at items and things like that. So I think the rewards are fine. I would like to see him take it even higher, crank up the difficulty even more, make a level 300 or something. Hell, that's just me. Maybe that's just completely wrong. But I would like some just super, super challenging bosses to wrap our hands around. But all in all, I think the new kind of boss ladder system, the way it works and the way it kind of ties into the pit, and then the rewards you get from it are definitely solid. So I'm going to give the bosses an 8. Again, I think once you kind of get the hang of it, I don't know if they're super, super engaging, but they're not bad, and I'm going to give an 8. But like I said, I would like to see them crank it up even more. I'd like to see some crazy stuff where you have to know every single mechanic by heart, perfect timing, perfect build. That's what I would like to see. Just I feel like it has more staying power that way. But now we move on to tempering and masterworking. I could have put these in the same category, but I want to separate them. If you saw my last video, I made a whole about 20-minute video going in depth on these two. And it was basically breaking down the math behind it on what it would actually take to get the items, or basically the items that you want. And it's a lot, and it's very dependent on RNG. With that being said, at a base level, I do like both these systems. I do think both these systems are good. I enjoy them. I think, masterworking is definitely a super endgame system. I will say sometimes the cost, it maybe is a little too high, in my opinion, for masterworking. And I know I'm kind of talking about these both together, but I think it's pretty good. And then tempering, I also think is good. My main issue basically with both of these, and this is specifically with tempering, I guess, is the fact that there's no way to grind out more materials and pay more materials in order to choose which affix out of the tempering manual you want. I think this is going to cause a lot of issues with people breaking items. People are going to get frustrated with it. And I definitely have concerns about it, like very big concerns, honestly, about the tempering system. And it's just, I don't know why that's not an option. That's something that definitely could be fixed, or because you're not choosing what roll you get. You're still getting a random roll of, let's say, movement speed, but at least you are able to choose movement speed instead of having the chance to brick your greater affix, 2 times greater affix, whatever, amulet or something, whatever it might be. I don't know. I just think that's going to be a huge issue down the line, and it's definitely something I could see myself getting frustrated and other people getting frustrated with once they run into the problem, and then having to find it all over again, do the tempering all over again, not being able to roll for better rolls because you don't know if it's going to roll, instead of movement speed, evade cooldown reduction or something like that. So I think I think the system in general is good. I like the recipes. I like the different combinations you can do, and that's what's going to bring it up a lot. However, I do think that's a big concern for me, and that's why it's going to get a 7. If you were just able to pay more and pick which one you wanted, which affix you wanted, and then get a random roll on that, or even a bonus to it, it would be a 9.5 or a 10, honestly. that is just dragging it all the way down. The fact that it's so easy to brick your items, and it just doesn't seem well thought out. And it also seems like it's meant to keep you farming longer and longer. And the same thing applies to masterworking to a sense. I don't really get why there's a chance to fail your masterworking at higher levels. That's just frustrating. You're just sinking your materials. Just why? But masterworking, what you can do at least with masterworking, so you can't choose which items or which affixes, get the 25% kind of super juice every 4 levels. But you can masterwork items as many times as you want, and it's not going to brick them or anything like that. So if you grind out a ton of materials, you could theoretically just keep doing it until you get the boost on the correct affixes you want. I did, in my last video, go into how this could take a very long time. But with that being said, I would like the same thing as tempering. I would like either a boost or a, straight up, this is the one I want. You got to get more materials. The material cost is always high, so this wouldn't be an easy grind. But then you can choose how to craft your, perfect item. The only other critique of masterworking, I would say too, is I know we complained a lot about like the damage on Tuesdays and stuff like that, and I'm glad they got rid of that from base itemization. But masterworking could be a cool way to incorporate maybe some very specific interactions, even beyond tempering, that could add depth to the game. I know they don't. The game is pretty simple. It's more of a. It's not like PoE. It's more casual. But I think a bit more depth in the game would go a long way. And masterworking is very endgame. If you've done the masterworking system, you know how many materials it takes, how many pit runs you got to do, etc. So this would be something that could just potentially add more depth to it. I think if they could add some things in there, whether that's I don't know. Just I haven't really thought that through too much. I just think it misses the mark on being able to add another layer of depth besides just increasing your numbers as like the final end game kind of crafting. So overall for masterworking, I'm again going to give it a 7, just like tempering. I think there's a couple things that bring it down, and in this case it's not as much one big thing, although I do wish you could pick, but the fact that you can keep doing it does help kind of alleviate that issue, so you're not bricking it, or as tempering you are. But I do think it misses a chance to really add some cool depth to the itemization that we kind of took away from the base items, but maybe we could add it back as more of an end game and open up more possibilities with different skill interactions, things like that. Could be a really cool thing. But overall, I'm going to give them both a 7. I think at a base level, they're both very good, but both have their issues. So class changes. So overall, I thought the class changes were pretty good. There's definitely some busted things, but that is the point of a PTR, and this is why we need a PTR every season. But I think what they did to many of the underused skills was great. I played Minion Necro. That was a ton of fun. They finally were able to figure it out. It might even be too strong. It's amazing. I'm fine with them keeping it too strong. They've been so ass for basically the entire game that good, just let them go wild for a season or something like that. There's definitely some things they got to fix. Like the Dust Level Barb is very cool, but you can't see a thing on your screen. Frozen Orb Sork is very cool. There's a lot of cool things that they've changed, and I think most changes have been for the good. The one thing I will say, and this kind of goes along with itemization, defense is much more at a premium now. So building heavily into defensive builds for the higher levels of a pit, it is imperative basically if you don't want to die and stuff like that. And I actually think that's a good change. I like how they made defense at a premium. So I think that was a good kind of, I know it kind of works in tandem with the itemization, but just I know they took away like the 10% DR from Barb and stuff like that. I think the emphasis on you have to go out and try, whether it's crowd controlling enemies or different forms of defense, whatever you got to do, you have to have, you have to put a premium on defense to push the higher levels, which is fantastic in my opinion. Because something like the Gauntlet that they put out that was supposed to be another kind of end game activity didn't have any form of defense whatsoever. It was all speed and it was just speed and shrine buff duration. So I think overall the class changes, I'm going to give a 9. I know there's a bunch of things bugged and stuff like that, but again, it's a PTR. That's what it's here for. There's still definitely some skills that could use some love, but I think overall the class changes, I'm actually going to give it I'm going to leave it at a 9. I was almost going to bump it up to a 9.5, but I'd give it a 9. Okay, so now we have quality of life and UI, and this is where I want to talk about the Codex of Power 2. So the Codex of Power is a fantastic change. This is going to improve our lives drastically. You don't have to chuck all your aspects into your inventory or stash and fill it all up. They now all go into the Codex of Power. It's pretty easy to use. The one thing I will say is the favorite system doesn't work very well right now. When you go to actually add it, it doesn't go right to the top to your favorites. But the way it looks is nice too. The way you get the gold border when you basically complete one or get a max roll of it is very nice. So I think the Codex of Power is an excellent change. It might even be my favorite change of this entire thing, just because how annoying it was to just stack all the aspects in there and then have to sort through them. One big issue with the UI as it currently stands, and a lot of people have pointed this out, I do think they'll change this and I really hope they do, is items with greater affixes. So when they're on the ground, I think, so they come up basically, it looks like a normal item, a normal legendary, but it'll have a Roman numeral next to it. And that'll be, 1 or 2. I haven't seen a 3, but maybe there's 3. I've only seen 1 or 2. And that'll be how many greater affixes are on there, and you're able to pick that up. However, once you pick it up and it goes into your inventory, you cannot tell the difference between that and other legendaries in your inventory. And even on the ground, I think it should be a different color, because I've definitely kind of passed by or grabbed one without knowing, just by picking everything up, because it's not, like I said, it's not super clear. It kind of just changes the text slightly and then adds a Roman numeral at the end, so it's not super easy to see. So I think they could make it bright pink or something, I don't know, just so it's easy to see. And then once it actually goes into your inventory and then later your stash, there's no way to see which is a greater affix item. So I think there needs to be some type of border around it or something, so you don't miss it, you don't accidentally scrap it. When you're looking through your stash, you're able to easily find them. They should even put a filter there to search by items with greater affixes. I think would be great as well too. But that is definitely probably my biggest issue with the UI at the moment. I think some of the stuff with the tempering UI can be kind of clunky. It always kicks you back out. I know there's it shows a blue item too. That's a bug that they said that they know about. But I think the way it kind of kicks you back out instead of you can just constantly kind of spam re-roll it is a little bit annoying. So I definitely think there's some more UI changes that could be made. The Codex of Power though is a huge W. And for that reason, I'm going to give it an 8.5. It's really just, honestly, the greater affix items definitely need to stick out more. Definitely should have been thought about beforehand, honestly. But with all that being said, what am I going to give an overall grade? This isn't going to be, I'm not just adding all these up because some are more important than others. I am pleased with it. I have my concerns. I've expressed them through multiple videos. But overall, I think the PTR has been extremely solid. It's been the biggest step in the right direction this game has basically ever seen. And I think the overhauling of the base game is much needed. My concerns, like I said, with the tempering and masterworking system, I think could be easily solved. I think the main concern with this going forward is just the staying power of some of these things. And it's hard to really judge on that because they're basically overhauling the entire base game. So if this came in Season 0, I don't think there'd be any problem with the staying power. But now that it's Season 4, you might lose people because there's just still not that much to do. But this needed this huge overhaul in order to build on this and add more and more and more late game activities and things for people to do. So overall, I'm going to give the PTR an 8. I think it's very good. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's very good. And that's going to be my final grade for it. I'm very excited for Season 4. We still have over a month at this point, honestly, until it comes out, which kind of stinks that they're taking away from us. But overall, I'm very happy with it, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I'd love to know your guys' thoughts in the comments. What did you like? What did you not like? Did you agree with what I said? Did you not agree? Whatever it might be, it's been The Butcher, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.